Thank you for joining in this video today with Aronim. Yes, I'm here to discuss some movies based on video games, and yes, I do have some opinions on them. Before some troll goes off just by reading the title, I should have one thing to say. Cool, I didn't ask yet. Nevertheless, I understand there are still people who still insist that even the most recent adaptations are not to their liking. But keep in mind, this video is based on public opinion, and my personal opinion is as well. Some of us could say that this pandemic has reached its turning point. Now vaccines are available. Some bigger states right now are even opening up movie theaters finally. I don't mean to flex, but my state already has them open since the last summer. But even then, there's still not a lot of movies that come out, so not everybody can go ahead and discuss it unless they watch it in somewhere like HBO Max or Disney Plus. But now we can actually have fun again, because there's a couple movies that are coming out for ones that everyone is excited about. Now, on a serious note about movie theaters, I really miss them a lot. While this age of convenientism, introvertism,
quick, change the channel!
Digital streaming is raising challenges. I don't think it could be a traditional experience when going to a movie theater by any means. I have one big memory of it. I have an AMC theater that closed down the summer before the pandemic even started, and it was Carmack Cinema at the time. One of my first movies that I remember going to was Toy Story 2, and now look, the last movie I saw was Toy Story 4, and now it closed down. As far as the topic of this video, I would also like to make a big note here. As mentioned earlier, that everything that I'll be talking about is purely on the standpoint of my opinion, what I feel should be going on in the future, and my little observations of behind the scenes based on what I'm able to come across in my free time. I'm not a business expert, so don't expect me to speak about everything in the business standpoint, because that's not my thing by any means. So the new Mortal Kombat is going to be in theaters very soon. If your area still does not have any theaters open up, you also have HBO Max. If your country does not have HBO Max, go get a VPN so you can watch from there. If you are able to access HBO Max but you don't have a device that is compatible for it, go ahead and get something that is compatible. Amazon Fire Stick or Roku's are compatible right now, and by the time this video is uploaded. So there's that, and they're also pretty cheap these days. Walmart, Best Buy, wherever you can get it at. Everybody saw the trailer for the Mortal Kombat movie. Everybody loves it, and everybody here has some good expectations out of it. And I'd say this because in the beginning we didn't. There's a lot of clickbait articles, a lot of rumors that are not to our liking. Now, because it looks good, I have to look back at some of the recent video game movies that came out in the past 5 years or so. I'd say they are pretty good for the most part. There are some that are pretty bad, obviously, and ones of the past are definitely bad. But I'll be honest with you, I want to look back at it. I want to see how far we've come. Some of the content may contain surprises for certain movies, even though they have been around for at least a year or a lot more. Watch at your own discretion if you plan to watch some of these for the first time in the future. I also want to note that I have not seen every single movie out there. Either I have not played games enough to watch the movies, or I just have not watched them by any means. It's been universally agreed by many gamers that any adaptation of video games into other forms of media, mostly live action movies, are trashy. I'm not the first to say I agree, because I definitely am. I've seen them, I know how terrible they are, but don't get me wrong, some of them are my guilty pleasure. The Super Mario Bros. Movie, for example, I will watch that still, no problem, even though I know how bad it is. But regardless of that, can you tell me what Hollywood was high on when they got this from this, or this as the Mushroom Kingdom? I got an answer for you guys. It's Hollywood. They'll do anything for money. Just give it a name matching a game and you're gold. Truth is, most of the movies made back then were written and directed by people who literally have no idea what they are even making. Not only that, but the budget given to them were low, the scheduling for studios was atrocious, video games were still a fairly new industry at the time, and a new market, so it's not like movie adaptations are the first thing on top of many consumers' head, maybe let alone the studios. Luckily, some may come off as decent or at least good enough. In my opinion, the Mortal Kombat and the Street Fighter movies were good, still very much watchable, even with a lot of flaws. And you have Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the sequel. I say it's another guilty pleasure of mine. I always laugh about it every time I watch it. Now, the Cyrax scene, the fight scene for that's one of my favorites. But I can't help but laugh at the dialogue. As an icing of the cake, when I found out the Shao Kahn was Buffalo Bob and Joe Dirt, that made me laugh anymore. Don't ask me how the rest of my reaction goes. While we did not get a good fight with some characters like Shiva and Rain, where even typical action movie jobbers get better treatment, like I said, the Cyrax fight scene happens to be one of my favorites. And I also do like the Scorpion and Sub-Zero fight scene, but I'll never understand why Scorpion has snakes, or even two of them, instead of a spear. I'll never get that by any means. And we never knew Shinnok was in the movie till like the very end of the movie, and they have to tell us at the end, giving us a hint that that was him this whole time. They could have just given him a name already, as is. It's really not that hard. The point still remains, the 90s was around, those movies were not made with the vision of a gamer, let alone a fan 95% of the time, and I think that's something we can agree on by any means. In the 2000s, we got the Resident Evil movies, which really, they're just trying to appeal to zombie movie watchers or just horror movie fans in general, not much of the gamers, and the execution was pretty terrible. I found the first movie to be pretty bad, and putting an original character as the spotlight is very tricky, and the execution for that is terrible because Alice is really not that good of a character, just some Mary Sue. However, I will say this, the slow motion effects ruin the movie a lot. The acrobatics that we just don't need is just terrible. Now, of course, the movies after that, I think, did improve a little bit, especially bringing in a lot of the characters from the games, but it doesn't really do too much. Even with the Legend of Chun-Li movie in 2009, that was also pretty bad. Good casting, for the most part, but bad execution. Michael Clark Duncan's pick for Balrog was great, but hardly even find that movie. And because of Hollywood things, you have to be Asian to know martial arts, they're gonna pick a Thai guy to play Vega, and he's Spanish. And that just tells you everything you know about the movie industry, at least on Hollywood side. I think the Tomb Raider movies are the closest we got to capturing the original source material for Lara Croft's character. Still managed to create an original story, so they did pretty good on that, except I fall asleep watching that movie. I will say one movie that I liked in the 2000s was, after looking back at it, was the Doom movie, especially that one hallway scene, but especially after watching that Annihilation movie on Netflix. Yeah, the original Doom movie was pretty good. So far, we've discussed the progression of movie adaptations, so while quality hasn't really changed much, visual effects is definitely an improvement that I see in my eyes. That doesn't really say much considering the advancement in technology, of course, so it is natural that it will come to that. Now, after looking over the video's title, I think right now we can talk about what we're really in discussion about, because we've found the point of a million steps of improvement finally. The 2010s are here. Okay, finally, we need to agree on something here. Visual improvements, the art style, everything I'm saying right now in the past decade looks to finally be okay, much better. I would like to make a confession about something. I know I said there were movies that I did not play enough to watch a movie or make a judgment call. but I did make one exception. I got bored one day, and I was working at the movie theater at the time where I live, and I just end up going to the movies to watch the Warcraft movie. One of my co-workers was ending up going there anyway, so we kind of watched it together. After watching it, I did enjoy it a lot, and I even talked to some of my buddies who went to the movie the day I was working on opening night, and everybody said that they thought it was pretty decent, so I find that to be a little bit confusing, considering we know movies based on video games aren't going to be that good. So I end up giving a try on that, so I like it. Now, I left my movie theater job later on. I went ahead and finally saw the Assassin's Creed movie when it was released. Walked out not being disappointed that much because it was perfectly balanced, the making of the original story without throwing away the source material a lot. But that Animus right there, I don't understand what came of that design by any means. It wasn't positively received, of course, but I think it had enough praise to know where it was going for, in my opinion. The modern day storytelling reflects a good bit of the games, trying to discover the pieces of Eden, using a guinea pig whose ancestors were able to trail back to a bunch of edgy parkour people at the time. Now, I want to clarify, I did not say that the movie was great. I only said it was not disappointing because I had low expectations for the movie, and it did exceed it when I went up watching it. When I was told that the movie was going to be told in a modern world setting for the most of the time, I cringed a little bit because I feel like they're just not even trying with it, but I guess it did capture the good visuals enough to me to not fall asleep when watching it. I like the use of the native speaking languages during the historical setting, the Spanish Inquisition, so I hear Spanish a lot and I like that a lot, especially in battle scenes, the character interacting, you name it. My biggest complaint was it's way too short for a story that they're trying to tell. It should have been 2.5 hours long here, and I have to say that would have made the movie even greater. Maybe it could have been a Netflix movie. Speaking of which...
Fuck. Fuck off, bud. Fuck. Oh, fuck. 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 Doesn't rhyme.
Yes, I love that. The Witcher was really based on the books, but the video games were what made this show happen, despite of that. So I'll consider it a game adaptation for that reason. The first season gave us mostly good performances. Henry Cavill did a great Geralt, in my opinion. But I hope we get the beard very soon. Of course, I don't think those two were really the turning point for quality for live action movies. For me, that is Detective Pikachu and the Sonic the Hedgehog movies. I have watched the initial trailer for Detective Pikachu many times because the appeal was just that amazing. So I really fell in love with it. I even watched the movie, and I have to say it is very faithful by any means. Not only by design, but the storytelling as well, and the casting was good too. You didn't pick out many people that are basic Hollywood actors, except Ryan Reynolds, and then you have Ken Watanabe. I think the biggest factor into Detective Pikachu's success was definitely the involvement from the Pokemon Company themselves, because I doubt the vast majority of past movies do in fact have any company insight from the creators. On this article from thewired.co.uk, it was even explained by the supervisor for visual effects, the work between them and the Pokemon Company. All finalized results were pending the approval by the Pokemon Company themselves. I will have the link posted in the description for additional details. Also, Warner Bros. Movies aren't always that terrible. Okay, I lied. You have the DC Extended Universe only because they won't let Snyder do whatever he wants. But they sure love to shove down the interference regardless. Along with the supervision and endorsement from the Pokemon Company, the fan reaction to the trailer shocked many of us as to how near perfection CGI and the artistry of the movie was. Gave me a lot of hope, and then I saw it myself. And like I said, I loved it. This brings me to the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. This monstrosity was shown. The hate was real. Even came from the former Sonic team head Yuji Naka and the original designer for Sonic, Naoto Oshima. This got to the point where director Jeff Fowler was even willing to work with the fan base to change his design. Now the movie was delayed. Thankfully, but 1 month before the theaters were closed was the movie release. The redesigns were even overlooked by Sega, brought into a veteran artist for the project. The movie then came out with mixed to positive results by critics and audiences. At this point, the sequel is now being filmed, and I really do hope the quality of the visual effects continues to go with it, even though the studio did shut down, but we'll see what happens. At this point, we have reached quite a few movies and showed that they were decent enough and have surpassed the quality of what we have been getting the past couple of decades before. A few of them just happen to be the better ones. With everything talked about, I truly believe that the greed of the film studios and the synthetic demand for an adaptation at those times have played major roles as to why they are trashy, and on top of that, just filled with a bunch of incompetence and ignoring the source material. The passion of the filmmaking for these recent projects are definitely more openly expressed, and to me, that possibly shows that the work was done with love, especially with the involvement of the distributors of the source material. If this continues to be down the road, we might even get better movies this time around. Now, we are waiting for 2 upcoming movies and a show that is being looked at, and that should definitely tell us where we're gonna go. We have Mortal Kombat, Halo, and Uncharted on the way. Now this leads to the big question. Are video game movies and show adaptations the future of Hollywood's box office rates while sustaining quality? At this point, I will say we're in between not in a million years to too early to say. First things first, live action is not the only form of media that the entertainment industry uses. They use books, they use animation as well, and a lot of people prefer animation because it could be close to the source material as it gets. A lot of this may thankfully not even be handled by Hollywood, and their cringe, stupidity, and just one-liners that really did not need to be there by any means.
At this point, how can you not believe in climate change?
The fans typically have a higher preference on animation because the source material will tend to be much more faithful in a cosmetic sense. I mentioned that already before. Unfortunately, this is not really tackled on at all by Hollywood or Western animation studios in general. I don't know the reasons why, but they just won't do it. Now, on the other side of the world, new video games from Japanese developers and properties have been explored in many ways. Some anime were even given live action treatments. I have not watched them yet, except for Netflix's Death Note, and that's really not the best attempt, but that's really made by Hollywood, so I can't really count that. Video games from Eastern developers even do have anime adaptations that tend to be given a positive feedback, and they're still being made to this day. Even manga adaptations were done with very little to no complaints. That's not to say the video game live action adaptations from Japan, the very little that was made at least, are all flowers and sunshine. I heard the Yakuza movie, based on the original game, was very negatively received. I have not watched it yet, so I cannot say. Now, as of September, another Yakuza movie is going to be made with Sega's Insight, so let's see what happens here. Thank you for joining in this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. The discussion of video game adaptations is definitely a subject I like to keep some activity with, so please comment down below which movies you would like for me to see and explore and other topics to talk about. If you're wanting to see me review the Mortal Kombat movie once it is released, please let me know in the comments below as well. Until then, be ready for the next video.